Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. It is kickoff week for the Bearcats as we are finally getting underway with the 2025 football season. I am your host, Justin Hiles, along with my great friend, Steve Maurer, and we are here to bring you all of the best coverage of the Bearcats every single week. And it is every single week now because we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. Speaking so fast here. We have a lot to get to here today. Main topics are going to be, of course, Jizzle James leaving the team. As well as the Nebraska preview, of course, and then some more Big 12 information in the back half. But all of that said, this is a reminder that we are part of the 10-12 network. So if you're not familiar, the 10-12 network provides great coverage of everything Big 12 related, from wrestling to football, softball, basketball, anything you want, you name it, the Big 12 has it. So make sure to check out all of our lovely podcasts there with plenty of great friends and good coverage across all teams for the Big 12. With all that said, Steve, welcome back, me boy. Are you ready for week one?
I certainly am, my friend. It is welcome to have football here. I'm back on the eastern portion of the country within the Cincinnati area, but you just informed me before we started recording that you're feeling a little bit of the nice fall breezes and cool weather too. And I don't know, brother, I walked outside this morning and it was 57 degrees. I'm like,
yeah,
it's close.
God,
There's probably one more shoe to drop, before it's really fall, but it'll probably get hot for like another week or so. But man, it's almost here. It's coming.
It's
coming. Y'all are ready.
Yeah, it was a miserable summer here in Nashville. It was just god awful hot for months on end. We just opened our windows for what feels like probably the first time since, like, I kid you not, like almost April. So we're very much enjoying it, and I hope that it just holds. But like you said, it's probably just a false fall.
I'm hopeful. We'll see.
It is what it is. But like I said, we got a lot to get into, so we're going to cover this one real fast to start us off, and then we're going to jump into football. So stick around. Big news as of the last week since we last talked as a group here. Jizzle James is officially off of the team, was officially discharged, removed from the team, however you want to put it, in a statement from Wes Miller. There really was not a lot of information on it outside of that. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of conversations offline about Jizzle James and what exactly happened. But the big news is that he's no longer on the team. This is a thing that we kind of saw coming for what seems like the better part of the last month. There was a lot of talk from Jizzle himself and, a lot of other outlets about what exactly is going on. What is the situation? It seems like it's a mix of a whole lot of things, but I don't know. It's not a good look for the program when you have somebody talking that way on your roster about other people on your roster amongst all of the other things that seem to be going on. So it seemed like, a little bit of FAFO and, kind of cashed his check there. And I think at this point, we'll see what happens, but it sucks because this is another one of those recruits that Wes brought in that was really highly touted, looked like he could have some, post graduation, post UC potential and some kind of pro level, whether that be G League, NBA, overseas, whatever. And it seems like it's kind of going to waste.
Yep. I don't really want to say much else on this other than, I hope that he gets like the help he needs if you feel like he needs it, or, I hope his family is able to support him and help him. There was at least a mention of his brother being enrolled at UC. So hopefully with that support, that would be good for Jizzle, if he's still on campus or still enrolled at UC. It just seems like he's, just unfortunately not doing very well right now. So, you can only wish the best for him. I did want to say real quick, just to like any fans that were kind of, like trashing him on the way out or anything like that. Like, man, you don't really, he can post all he wants on Instagram and that's his right, but we will probably never know the full story of what happened. And, that's his life and his personal stuff. And he's, obviously, like, I think anybody could say that, he might just need some more love and support right now. So, maybe, just think about, if you're, about to send something, or maybe a little bit like, questionable, just think about what you say before you send it, because there's definitely a lot more people than that are potentially struggling with similar things. And when we,
Mhm.
as a group, as a society, however you want to deem it, whenever we are talking down on those people who have, obviously some sort of issue like this, it makes others who might be struggling as well feel that they need to cover up their own issues, and also just, kind of shove that down, or, act a certain way. Doesn't matter. All I'm
Mhm.
saying is, let's just all, remember what, like, I know people were saying, he came from a certain home and had a certain background, and none of that stuff really matters, guys. If he's really struggling, then, it's all in on the individual. And like, so I, at least personally, Justin, that's how I want to approach it. And we probably won't talk much more about Jizzle on our podcast going forward, but I did just want to say that to our fan base, in case this unfortunately ever happens again to anyone on our team or on another team. Let's just kind of, let's think about what we're saying first before we say it. Is that
For
fair?
sure. Yeah, eloquently said. I think the only other point that I'd have on this is just, um, you know, a lot of what you were just saying. I think what you said becomes very clear when you think about how everything kind of spun out and how this situation sort of came to be. I think there was a lot of things, again, many things that we don't know, but enough people saying enough things online and saying things that they don't know for sure, or saying just what they hear from somebody else. These crappy games of telephone get around, and clearly, like, it fed, like, he was feeding into it. He's in a bad place, whatever that is, and he was kind of feeding into it, and then fans were feeding into it, and it's just this back and forth. And it's like, sometimes these kind of things, like, as a fan base, it's very easy to say a lot of things online and not think there's a lot of consequences, but clearly there were direct consequences when anybody said anything, because he's reading it. Like, and sometimes you think like, oh, I can just say this thing and talk about my team, or like my program, or like the University of Cincinnati, and it doesn't, these players don't see it. And very clearly, like, there is a very clear point to be made that they can see it, and that it does affect them, and that it can um, make these situations worse. Whatever it might have been, whatever the situation is, it might be making it worse. So again, it just puts a lot of focus on this, like, hey, as fans, like, let's just, again, like you said, be aware of what you're saying and be cognizant of it, because it does have an effect on everybody, whether it's you, whether it's the person you're talking about, whether it's the people you're talking about, or anything. And I think that's why, as a podcast, we're not perfect. We're never perfect. Try to cover topics as much as we can, and keep things relevant. But it certainly does bring a lot of things into question about how we as a fan base, talk out either certain people or certain things going forward, and just being, again, cognizant of the consequences of some of the things that you might say. So, um, all that away, again, we'll see how the roster shapes up. Well, I guess not shapes up. I mean, we basically already know what it is. I guess technically we'd have an extra scholarship spot. I would imagine we just kind of bank that for next season. But I think we're still in a really good spot. I think this only gives another opportunity for Kerr and Tillery to make a really nice impact this year. And going forward, he is going to be missed, but I certainly think that this team is capable of moving forward. Um, you know, Business as usual, and keep on trucking forward, and hopefully all of the goals that they have set, I would imagine nothing changes just because one guy's gone.
Yep.
So
Yep. For
that's
sure.
that.
Good point.
Yeah. So again, everything covered there on Jizzle. Just wanted to kind of, give our thoughts on that and a little bit of an update, but we're here for football, man. It is football season. We are in week 1. So we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of new information coming out, and we've got some sort of unofficial depth charts. Thank you to our friends over at Bearcat Bunch for helping share that around. So we're going to kind of dig into that, as well as some lines from the game, and some, maybe some key players to watch, a few other little stat bites, if you will. So, Steve, without further ado, it's week 1, baby. We got week 0 in. It was nice. We'll talk about that in the back, but it's about the Bearcats today. How are we feeling?
So we know that podcasting is a visual medium, Justin. We've all known this. Like ever since the podcast game has started, it's always been a visual medium. But for those of you who may just be on an audio medium, I just want to hear, I'll let you hear the sound of one simple thing. And you'll see what I'm holding if you're watching the video. You hear that? That's the sound of a Cincy light cracking open. That means football season is finally back, everybody. Welcome back. We made it. The long wait is finally over. We're going to see the Bearcats play on a football field for the first time in seems like forever. And, Justin, I can't blame people if, they're not as excited in years past. There's definitely, some things to talk about. And that's why we're here, man. We're going to talk about it. But I, personally, with my time working for the football team and then just being a lifelong fan and stuff, and to be honest, with the basketball not being as good, over the past few years, football season is just different for me now. I don't get me wrong, I still love basketball. I'll still watch as many games as I can, but just a couple of the magical runs that we've had with football and just all the recent history. I was thinking about this, Justin. It's been 20 years since Cincinnati joined the Big East this year.
Wow,
it's,
yeah.
technically we're in a Power 6 conference for the Big East and the American, but now we're in a Power 4 conference and we're finally where we want to be. So I want to give everybody a quick cheers for following along with this program. And
I would cheers to that. I don't have anything around right now.
So Justin, the man who we're going to be playing against this Thursday, there is Matt Rule. There's also, Dylan Raiola. And so I wanted to just bring up a tweet real quick that he had posted earlier today. And I want to get your thoughts on it. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. I did post it earlier, but so I'm assuming this was today, but on social media, who knows? So grain of salt, everybody. But there was a posted tweet today of Dylan Raiola saying that he can't help the Mahomes comparisons. Quote, "I can't get mad at God for making me look like him." End quote. And that's Dylan Raiola on being compared to Patrick Mahomes. And a certain sports book, hit us up in the DMs if you want us to say your name on our podcast. We're always open. Said this was Dylan Raiola his freshman year at Nebraska, and looks nothing like Mahomes, not even close, not at all. So
not even remotely.
I posted this and I said the Bearcats have an opportunity to do something incredibly funny on Thursday night, and that would be beating baby Mahomes in his own state, in his namesake's own stadium. So, Justin, we've been talking a lot of smack with these Nebraska people, and it was really just me posting very innocuous things and about 30 of them coming into my mentions and wishing harm upon my loved ones. So, how are you feeling going into Thursday night's game? There's been a lot said over the internet, a lot of different things that we've talked about over the preseason. I want to hear it from you, man.
Yeah, it's
come on, we're trying to get the people excited. Come
I
on,
don't know, man. It's about time to put some hands in the dirt and just see.
Yeah, there we go. That's right.
I'm ready for it, man. We've been waiting for so long, I think, just to get to this game. But not only it's not only just a season opener where it's just we usually have kind of easier team on the schedule or somebody a little bit more palatable. This is one that we don't traditionally have any much history with them. We don't really have a rivalry with them. There's nothing really there. But all the noise around this has just made it so much more interesting and so much fun. And I'm, like I said, I'm excited for it. The whole Dylan Raiola thing on that exact comment, I just think it's so funny too, because, you if you say you can't get mad at God for looking like him, God does not create cosplay. God does not create Comic-Con for football. That is all you, buddy. You tit for tat, this guy does everything to be exactly like Patrick Mahomes. And granted, I give this guy credit in a way, because some people have a hero or a person that they admire, a role model. Patrick Mahomes, love him or hate him, he seems like a pretty good role model for a lot of people. At the top of his game, all that, great. But when you got the Nebraska colors are, matching, that is what it is. But when you get the necklaces, when you get the glasses, when you shave your facial hair, when you get your hair cut in the exact same hairstyle and everything to look like this one guy, Come on,
And you got
buddy.
the number 15 too.
And
Sorry.
you got the same number. Like, that's cosplay. I'm sorry. Like, literally, like, this guy, every single time he goes out is like Halloween. That's what it is. It's like Halloween for him. He's like, I got everything. I look exactly like this guy. And somebody at a bar is like, oh my God, that looks like Patrick Mahomes. Like, he probably like lives that up. So now he's going to be playing in Arrowhead. This is like Comic-Con for the Cornhuskers here. Like, this is everything that he wants. This is perfect.
It's the only time he's ever going to be playing with fans cheering for him in Arrowhead. So you better live it up and enjoy it. But that, man, that was just very funny.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where, like, I mean, Matt Rule had his press conference today and he was, saying nice things, but I love college players because there's less of a filter on them than there is on pro players.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of them have gotten better just because they've just done media, and like, but I love when we get those unfiltered quotes like that. And like I said, the Bearcats have an opportunity to do something incredibly funny on Thursday night. So
That they do.
I'm very interested to see how that goes. Justin, real quick before we get into some of the X's and O's of the game, I did want to go over the depth chart with you real quick, if that's all right. I just have a couple points. So our man Bearcat Bunch, Eric Lilly, did tweet this out earlier today. The Cincinnati Bearcats did release their unofficial depth chart. And so, no real surprises to me that I've seen. We kind of known about most of these guys as the, spring and fall camp has gone along. Joe Cotton and Tarantayo are two transfers that are going to be starting on the offensive line for you, which is interesting, but you can hope that they've, gelled as the season, as, spring and fall have gone along. And then obviously Brendan Sorsby is going to start at quarterback for the Bearcats. I'm interested to see what the split of carries will be between Evan Pryor and Tawee Walker, because we saw that Pryor last year in this offense was used kind of as that home run hitter. And like he had a few different 60-yard runs for touchdowns. And Corey Kiner was kind of that first and second and third down back. So I do want to see how that carry split happens and if that's used still, or if they try to give Evan the ball, more often because he was here last year and he's kind of like that. And they're trying to reward that for staying. So, or just in general, like, how are they going to use that power and lightning? Because it did seem to work pretty well last year in a lot of different games for UC. So I want to see how that happens. And then, a couple other notes. The wide receivers, looks like Jeff Caldwell, Noah Jennings, Cyrus Allen, and Caleb Goody are all going to be getting some reps, as well as former Nebraska commit turned and then signing day flip Barry Jackson Jr. So, maybe he's got a little bit of stakes in the game. I think the problem with UC as the season went on down the end of the year, and we all know this just from watching the games, is that there was just not much of an outside passing threat. And so Sorsby had to do a lot more with his legs. He had to try and make plays happen, which unfortunately might have cost us the West Virginia game. No shame on him. I respect, trying to play hero ball, but when it just wasn't happening for us later in the year and he just was not able to make those plays, that unfortunately did, give up points. And then it kind of, just turned out that way. So, but so I'm hoping that, Joe Royer has another big year. He's able to draw some defenders, and then that can get our guys in some one-on-ones outside. And if you win those one-on-ones, I would feel pretty good about that because, I know people have always been kind of on Scott as a coach. But his offensive play calling and offensive scheming has been like pretty solid, over the
great, honestly.
First couple of years. So I do want to see what happens with that. Now, Nebraska does currently have the 14th best SP plus defense, according to Bill Connolly's numbers on ESPN.com. So, Justin, when I present that to you, our offense versus their defense, how is that hitting you? What's that initial reaction just in your chest?
You said 14?
14th best in the nation, yes.
We'll see.
But I have heard that they apparently have some problems with their defensive line and that they're not maybe as big as some of the other guys. And so, you got Gavin Gerhardt in the middle, you got Joe Cotton on the left side, Dowdre Buford, Tarantayo, and Evan Tengsdal. Maybe you can get something going there.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I'd be really curious to see how it shapes up because, again, like these are things where it's so easy to put metrics and numbers next to, names and stats and everything else from prior seasons. But ultimately, like, until you get down into the dirt on, the first snap of the game, you're not really going to know what really either this defense or this offense really is going to bring. Like, I think there's a lot from our side that, we have a good amount of returning guys in the right spots. But when it comes to, Nebraska side on the defensive side of the ball, like, I think they have enough returners that they're going to feel confident, but is it going to be like lights out? Where our offense was last year versus number 14 defense? Maybe
Well,
it's going to be tough, but like, I think regardless, it's still going to be a difficult game. But I think the Bearcats played a lot of very difficult defenses last year in certain situations, and I don't see why this would be anything that they haven't been ready for.
yeah. So just to give you a couple more stats on that, according to rlads.com, Nebraska's depth chart, they have 7 of their 11 starters on defense are all either redshirt seniors or seniors. So definitely a lot of experience there. Got a sophomore D tackle that is going to start and a junior left defensive edge. They also play the 3-3-5. So maybe, hopefully, if you're been running against that 3-3-5 all spring and all fall, maybe that will, hopefully open up a few things for that offensive staff to take control. But you're right. We don't know anything. We haven't been able to watch anything. So it's until a toe meets leather that we're going to have to try and figure this out on the fly. But I do kind of think that maybe Satterfield's offense is going to be able to, what we're trying to do obviously is try and open up that passing game by having a strong running game. And that first drive is probably going to tell us a lot about how this game is going to go. Either way, that's a pretty basic football point. But what I'm saying is, if UC can't really create a push early with their offensive line, then they're going to have to rely on trying to pass, and hit Roy or hit Gavin Grover, hit a couple more guys, hit those tight ends, hit those wide receivers, and try and open that up. And if that's not working, then you're just trying to keep building on there. So
that's true.
And just by the way, for completion standpoint, Bill Connolly SP Plus has the Bearcats offense at 77. So I believe a little bit more in this Bearcats offense than Bill Connolly maybe does. Numbers on a page, right? So we'll see what happens. That might be that point though too. Huh? I'm just saying that might be like the interesting matchup going into this game.
Yeah, I think, and that's the other thing too, is like a lot of people are probably going to underrate this offense because, you're losing some big guys up front, like your O-line. It's tough to replace a guy like Kandra and replace some of our losses there. But I think when you look at the additions that were made, I think a lot of it should be pretty steady. The biggest question mark for me, honestly, is just the wide receivers, because it is a lot of newness there, and it's guys that are learning the system. How those will translate into chemistry with Sorsby, I think, is a big question mark. And again, like, those guys could be ready to go day one. It might take a while for them to kind of settle in. And so those things, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. It kind of feels like, at least in the wide receiver room, it kind of feels like Satterfield's like year one again, where it's kind of like, all right, a lot of newness here. And how is this whole thing going to kind of gel? But system wise, like you said earlier, Satterfield runs a pretty good game managing like balanced workloads between, running the ball and passing the ball. So I feel pretty confident that they'll be able to pivot. And that's kind of the thing that's really nice about his system is there's usually always one thing that you can kind of skirt to. And if something's just not going well in a game, they're going to figure it out. And that's kind of the thing that, as long as they stay light on their feet in this game, I think it should be very manageable. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to easy, but I think they'll be able to manage whatever Nebraska's defense is going to throw at them. I do know that as far as Nebraska goes too, they had, I want to say it was their corner, Sire Wright. I guess I'm saying that right. Correct. No pun intended. I think he's kind of their marquee player on their defense. He's going to be a big name for them. And I want to say he's either freshman or sophomore. I'm trying to remember.
He's a redshirt senior.
Redshirt senior? Oh, my God.
So you're right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm reading that wrong. Okay. Yep, you're correct. Jeez, that was terrible. Anyways, now I make myself look stupid. But yeah, so Sire right, and then it was Marquez, Watson, Trent too, linebacker for them. I think those two guys are sort of, from what I can tell, are their key guys. And for the Bearcats offense, just you're gonna have to be able to control what you can control. And receivers are gonna have to be able to get open. So as long as
Yep.
you can make sure that you're, again, like I said, staying light on your feet and are able to pivot in this game, and don't try to get like stuck into one corner of what your strategy is, should be okay. I think this should be, you'd be able to keep your head in it, all 4 quarters.
Yep. Let's go real quick to the Cincinnati defense versus the Nebraska offense. Now, there's a couple names. We already did talk about Mahomes light Dylan Raiola earlier in this show, but I do want to mention real quick Dane Key. He is a senior transfer at the Z wide receiver from Kentucky. The only reason I know this name is because I randomly follow some Kentucky people on Twitter, and this was one of their only guys the last couple of years that did anything for Kentucky on offense. So definitely going to have to keep him bottled up if you want to win. Nebraska, coached by Dana Holgerson, offensive coordinator. Cincinnati did beat Dana Holgerson in their last meeting. Their only Bearcats win of the Big 12 conference for their 2023 campaign was in Houston to beat that Dana Holgerson team. So, maybe a little bit of familiarity. That was an ugly game. I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be an ugly game too, just because, so when Dane is able to work it out, and I will give them credit, they did work out a little bit later on and down the season as they went on. The offense did get better. Raiola did still lead the league. Did still lead the Big Ten in interceptions last year with 11. But they went through a little bit of a rough patch. They got blasted by Indiana in October, but they did end up scoring some more points near the end of the season. So maybe that'll give them an edge to have that have Dana Holgerson there for a full calendar year coming into this game. But I do kind of wonder if that is going to be a little bit of familiarity for Cincinnati because they've seen a Dana Holgerson offense before within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So real quick, go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say it's just a little bit of inside ball. Like, you have a little bit of some knowledge there of,
and we saw that. We saw that the last 2 years when Cincinnati was playing against Pitt, obviously didn't go our way in 2024, but look how prepared they were and look how they were able to attack both of those Pitt games leading into them. So I will give this staff credit, man. They come in and they're prepared and they're ready to go. So, just from the previous staff of how they always started slow, this team does kind of like to get out and start fast if they can. So I do like that. Obviously, we talked about it a lot last year that there was like end of half stuff that really didn't go the Bearcats' way in 2024, and that will need to be fixed. But I'm hoping that with a little bit more experience and talent, that can be fixed. But anyway, real quick, just on the defensive line, obviously we got Dante back. I'm really happy for him. He's redshirt senior. He's clocking in at 6'1", 335, dude. And I'm loving watching him. He's got his own personalized dumbbells in the facility, man. I just love everything about that guy. I love how he leads this program. But someone that I do want to point out is that Jalen Hunt was out all last year with an injury, and he is back this year. Some much needed depth. And then, Micah Coleman and CJ McCray are going to be on the defensive end on the other side. But I did want to point out Marquez Parker, who's a freshman, is on this depth chart, and he's, 6'4", 265. So, and I feel like he played some games last year. I don't know how he's a freshman still. Maybe I'm just thinking differently. But so I really love what that defensive front is going to do. And that's kind of where Cincinnati needs to be more effective, is in stopping that run game, because it was kind of the opposite way, right? Teams would be able to run on us a little bit last year. And then we were able to make some stops, but not enough. But the weak point is probably going to be our secondary. And so we get Matthew McDoon as the transfer there from Coastal Carolina. Jaquan Sanks, true sophomore, playing the star, one of the big recruits of the initial class for Satterfield. And then Logan Wilson, he's kind of like the leader on this defense, I'd say. He's going to be playing corner. And then we got Tennessee transfer Christian Harrison back there at strong safety, Trevon Collard at free safety. But those 5 guys back there, they're going to be trying to play that umbrella, keep Nebraska close to the sticks, and not to let them get anything deep, because that is kind of the genesis of the 3-3-5. You keep a light box so that you can protect those downfield from those downfield passes. It is kind of like a little bit of a bend don't break offense when it's not a defense, when it's not played well. Obviously, we've seen as Cincinnati fans how well the 3-3-5 can be played when Marcus Freeman was here, and so it can definitely be stepped up. But so real quick, Justin, let's just go over the rankings again.
Real
Cincinnati,
fast.
yes,
Real fast before you jump into that. I would just like to add, our kick returner is Logan Wilson as well. That seems kind of problematic. I don't like that. Like,
our guy
punt
Eric
returner as a first option. Like, I get like you got speed, you got like a certain level of agility, but like as somebody who's going to be really key to that defense, like probably your point guy, at least back there, I don't like that at all. I don't like that one bit.
No,
that's got to be like a third string, maybe second string, like running back or one of your receivers where you have a lot of other depth. Like that just seems like bad business to me. But
like our guy Eric pointed out, like if you had Manny Covey back there catching kicks, like he is one of the backups. But like I would feel a lot better about that too, not having one of your leaders out there. Matthew McDoom is the other kick returner too. I'm like, we do not need both of those guys out there. Let's just honestly, if we want to just fair catch it every time, I'm good with those two. Like, let the other guys, try and get some yards, but we really need McDoom and Logan Wilson out there this year. So please, boys, proceed with caution.
Defensive guys. It should not be your defensive guys where that tends to have been your issue over the past few years. Those key players should not be the ones returning kicks and just having extra reps that might get them hurt.
Completely agree. I can get with that. So by the way, real quick, the Cornhuskers only had about 1,700 yards of rushing last year compared to 2,900 yards of passing. About 6.8 yards per attempt on the pass and 3.8 yards per rush as well. So Nebraska on the SB Plus coming into the season, their offense is at a 70. So, kind of a similar neighborhood as the Bearcats. Bearcats defense does come in at a 45 overall on the SB Plus ranking. So, not as high as a 14, but you're hoping that maybe some of that effectiveness that we talked about, and hopefully that the Godfather can come in and make a play when you need him to. And maybe some of that familiarity, right, with that Satterfield, with that Holgerson offense, and knowing what to prepare for with that attack. You're hoping that those guys can remember that game if they're still here from a couple of years ago, or just being able to stay on their keys and make sure that because Raiola can run a little bit, but you got to keep him in the pocket and force him to make a decision, because he's still just a true sophomore, and that leading the league last year with 11 picks, like that's still a lot, man. And so he's not really much of a runner. I mean, I don't know what his sack adjusted, because the dumbest thing in NCAA stat keeping, by the way, for football is that they count sacks as negative rushing yards for the quarterback. Like that's such like 1960s stat keeping. Like, can we figure that out? But anyway, he's not really much of a runner, maybe a little bit more of a pocket passer. But as we've seen for Bengals and Bearcats football over the years, if you give, it always seems like the quarterback is able to run and get 5 yards and just move the chains. And maybe that's a lot to ask, to cover 5 guys on the outside and then try to cover a quarterback as well. But man, like it seems like that's one of the most annoying things about watching football sometimes, is when the quarterback can just sneak out, gain like 5 yards, and then just move the sticks. So hopefully Cincinnati can limit those opportunities as well. Need to get a little bit more of a pass rush this year going to.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are, that's kind of the key thing for me, is just having a pass rush, because I think if you have a really solid pass rush, you take a lot of pressure off of your secondary, like a lot.
Yep.
Like you can just you're forcing, not only does your pass rush open up opportunities for just deflections and things like that, but you actually have opportunities for more interceptions too. You have opportunities for a quarterback who might not be who is leading the league in the Big 10 last year for interceptions, who might be throwing a duck or two out there. And if you can kind of force him to throw a few more tighter windows that might be a little bit questionable, maybe some of your guys can actually convert those into some turnovers, which again, like that was a thing that I feel like the Bearcats did a really good job of, pretty much throughout the entire Fickle era. And it seems like it's still a little bit lackluster. Is just number of turnovers, like defense generating turnovers, because one forced fumble here, like one recovery here, one interception here or there, like those things completely change the game. And as long as you have more of those game changers, I think it's really going to open up opportunities for your team to just kind of, even if it's not get 6 on the board, get 3 on the board, or just stop a possession and keep the other team from doing that. That's all that really matters, man. And I think, again, when you have a big game like this and it's a lot of question marks going into it, you just have to be able to have some of those moments you can take advantage of in turnovers. And if you win turnover margin, you have a really good shot at winning the game. If it's a 50-50 game, that's usually the thing that decides it. It's one possession. So
speaking of winning the game, Justin, I don't know if you've seen the line, but let's go over a couple of different things with our if someone wants to be our friend and fill their name into this space, we would love it.
Oh, yeah,
but
we would love that.
So this is this line has been rocking at multiple books at about 6.5, full 7 football number for most of the summer. But currently we are at 6.5 on most major sports books. The point total open at 50.5, and then is about, you can get either 53.5 to 54.5. You can also get a 54. There's also a 53 as well. So anywhere between 53 and 54.5. So Justin, and just real quick for the money line, Cincinnati is now plus 200, plus 210. You get a plus 220 at a certain sports book, but Nebraska is going to be obviously the money line favorite if they're the spread favorite. So from a betting standpoint, how would you approach this going in? Obviously, we're fans and we know I think everybody knows what we're about to say here, but how do you see that number?
Well, the spread, I think, is honestly a little bit absurd in my mind. The fact that it's so what you said, it was 7 is what you're seeing?
6.5, but
6.5. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm seeing, at least what I'm looking at right now, 7. But whether it's 7 or 6.5, I think this should be more like closer to like 3.5. I think it's going to be a lot tighter of a game. Again, it's the same thing, which we'll talk about in a few minutes about, like week 0 for Iowa State and Kansas State. There's going to be a lot of defense, and there's going to be a lot of rusty nails that got to be, kind of find their way back into the wood on offense. So I think that kind of thing for me, this game should be a lot tighter than that. But I wouldn't say that I'd be confident here taking the Bearcats money line, but I'd take them to cover. I'd take the Bearcats to cover. Like, I mean, I think there's no reason that this should not be like I said, a 3-4 point game at the end of it. Like, it should be pretty tight. And as far as like the totals go, I mean, that I think seems really, really fair. I would probably err on the side of the under, just because there's going to be a lot of, again, I feel like defense always reigns supreme in week 1 until offenses really find the rhythm, especially when you have 2 fairly evenly matched teams. Like when you have like a lopsided offense versus a lopsided defense, I think you're going to see some things that like might swing you to take an over. But like when it's this tight, especially, offensively, I would say take the under probably.
I think that's fair. I'm interested in taking the first half under for all those points you said, just because the first half under everywhere I'm seeing is 26.5. So I could see that kind of coming in close, but it just depends on how that first quarter goes, really. If you're not able to give up a quick, easy score, then that can happen. So here's the thing, Justin. I think what you mentioned there about the turnovers is a great point. And I think Cincinnati's going to need to force Dylan Raiola into a bad decision. And that's going to have to flip the game here, because while I do think that, we respect our opponent. I definitely Nebraska has some talent. There's just been a couple different times over the like last year, if you just want to take that sample size, where
Yeah.
Raiola made some bad decisions and cost them games. And like I don't know if you were watching the Illinois game last year, but the Illinois one was a big example where Illinois came into Nebraska, tied the game late, scored on the first possession of overtime, and Nebraska had the ball and had to score to match them. And Raiola was trying to run around, make a play, and took a huge sack and basically, knocked Nebraska into a third and really long situation. And Illinois was able to escape and get out with the W. And after that, Nebraska kind of started sliding, and it's going to be. Let's be honest, it's going to be probably very heavily Nebraska fans. Their AD even mentioned it's going to be about 60 of the 65,000 people in the stadium that night are going to be Nebraska people. So this is going to be, even though we're probably going to be wearing home uniforms, it's going to be a road-like environment for us. So I want to see how Cincinnati comes out and tries to play that to their advantage and tries to kind of win that over, because it's going to be, at least from that standpoint, a positive environment for the Nebraska offense to be able to operate and be able to try and make something happen. So something that I would really love to see is, they didn't do this enough last year because they were trying to keep more guys in the backfield to be able to, prevent those short passes or any passes leaking out. But if we could send one or two blitzes early on and try to have that going off his head that, okay, they're going to try and send somebody here. Maybe I need to make this I kind of want to set the tone early with him.
Yeah, for
just
real.
Because even though I'm sure he's talked with his coaches all year about, limiting the turnovers and stuff, that, once that he has not played a football game since December. I mean, neither of our guys, but like you were mentioning, defense kind of has the upper hand when you're entering a game in a situation like this where you don't really know much about the other one just yet. And I would love to see us do something like that, get him off of his timing early and kind of mess with that the whole game, and try to, not build your way up to that turnover, because I would love multiple turnovers. I would love to have more than one, obviously, but if you can just keep chipping away, keep adding that pressure and make it come from different areas. I would love to see what Tyson Vite's game plan is going to be on Thursday night.
Yeah. I mean, I agree too. Like that, I think again, defense is gonna reign supreme here. It's gonna determine the entire game. I think, it's interesting that you kind of mentioned last season, because there is, I think, going to be, of course, some carryover for Nebraska side. It's funny when you look at their schedule too from last year and compare it, just if you put them side by side with the Bearcats, the cadence of the season is really similar. Really, really similar. Remember, this is a team that was finished 6-6 last year. Of course, they did get Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio State, which were some tough teams last year. But overall, their schedule was pretty manageable outside of those few games. And realistically, I'd say outside of Indiana and Ohio State. Of course, that Illinois game they probably should have won. This team should have been much better than they were. And I think that is kind of the same thing that you could say about the Bearcats last year, is unrealized potential. And so I think, they definitely got a little bit squirrely in the back half, started off 5-1, finished 6-6. Bearcats started off 5-2, ended 5-7. So it's kind of a similar story, and I think both of these teams have a lot to prove. But like you said, I think the defensive aggressiveness really early, setting the tone would be huge, because again, you get his mind spinning on that. He probably hasn't taken a hit by somebody who wants to really hit him since probably December. Probably hasn't taken a sack like that since December. You get somebody on him early, just get him a little rattled. It'll do numbers later in the game. And again, every time he goes to run the ball, he's going to think about it. Every time he goes to, step a little bit outside the pocket, he's going to think about that. So those kind of things I think are really key in making sure that you're going to be setting your offense up as far as when you're getting them back out on the field. You're going to be setting them up really well if your defense can just start to close out some things. You don't necessarily need a 3-and-out, but shut down a lot of these drives. Force them to take a kick. if instead of going for 6, make them go for 3, like make them just make those decisions. And as long as you can kind of stifle them and keep the pace near what you would be expecting from the Bearcats, if you can keep your offense in pace with that, I think we should be in really good shape here. And again, I really feel like this is going to come down to a kick. I don't know if it'll be a game-winning kick, but I feel like it's going to come down to 3. And it might be from the second quarter. It might be from the fourth quarter. It might be on zeros. It might not be. But this to me, this game just kind of has that feel. And so we'll see what happens. But you never know. I mean, Nebraska could blow the doors off of us. We could do the same to them. Like it's really a lot of questions marks, but it is for sure going to be in Nebraska's favor, just given the Bearcats home game in Arrowhead. So still annoyed about that. Will not let that go until after this game is over. And then I will officially stop talking about it after this game is over. Maybe after week 2, because depending on how this game goes, we might have more conversations about moving home games into enemy territory, directly into enemy territory, which we have some conversations that need to be had about basketball later in the season. We're looking at you, John Cunningham, and staff and friends that are moving these games like Atlanta and Greenville and playing teams that are 30 minutes away, but it's a neutral site game. More worried about that for basketball than I am for football, but this one really sucks. Anything else on football, Steve? We covered a lot.
No, I'm just excited for the game, man. Like like I said, like it's been great, good off season, and I'm just excited to see my mood for Friday and for the rest of the weekend is going to be completely
Thursday.
No. I'm saying my mood for Friday is going to be, and the rest of the weekend is going to be long weekend. By the way, is going to be completely dependent on this one result. I definitely like have a lot of good things going for me, but that's football for you, baby.
Yeah, I mean
that's a joke, by the way, everybody. That's a joke. Like I'm well adjusted. I'm good, but I definitely like if we lose, I'll wake up on Friday. I'd be like this. I mean, like that's human.
And then you're gonna have like Monday to like think on it and stew on it some more.
Well, but then you get to watch the rest of the football, and then you're like, okay, well, lost the first one, but let's get put the tape on. Let's go to next week.
Yeah. As a final point on this Nebraska game here, again, this is Thursday at 8 p.m. for Central Time viewers, 9 p.m. for Eastern Time viewers. This game's going to be a telltale one for the entire rest of the season. I think it's going to set the tone when you have a big opponent like this to start it off. You're going to learn a lot really fast, and I think you're going to learn a lot more here than you would if you had Bowling Green or Northwestern State starting the season. So I think the way the schedule is lining up, if you can come out with a win here, you're looking at a really solid start, assuming all.
And I love getting challenged early. That opens up your flaws and lets people know like what you got, what you can fix and work on. And it's like Nebraska will be a tough team. We will play tougher teams. So like this will be like a good tone setter for us. We got Iowa State on the schedule. Look at how they just played on Saturday. So This is going to be a good game, good bellwether. But season's not going to be over after one game. If we do unfortunately drop it, like we're just going to have to, pick ourselves up and keep rolling. So, but I think we can win. I think we're going to win.
Can. Well,
I'm
like
telling
you said,
myself that at least.
Dude, look at 2023, look at 2024. What did we learn in week 1, both of those years? Absolutely freaking nothing. Not a damn thing. So this, I think, no matter what the situation is, it's going to be a lot better for the team in the long run. Get those tough teams early. It's going to be only helpful for you. So all of that said, it is time for a little Big 12 head-to-head action. We were bringing this back. It's not going to be quite as complex or lengthy as it was in, seasons past, but we still like to keep it fun here. So we're just going to do a quick little recap. Like we said, week 0 was a lot of fun. Depending on what part of the game you watched, if you watched the front half or you watched the back half, might determine on how much you enjoyed it. I think the first 10 minutes were really interesting, and then the last 10 minutes were really interesting. Outside of that, this game was horrible, but in a sandwich, it's a really nice sandwich. It might not have all the best layers, but the bread was great here.
Do ogres have layers? Do onions have layers?
Do ogres have layers? It's a good question. We don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot to learn. Again, this is kind of nice when you get a big, like marquee opener like this, especially between two Big 12 teams that you're going to see later in the season. Two teams that are also like top 4 in contention for winning the title for the Big 12 this year. Sucks for K-State, man. That's a tough start to already have a conference loss on your schedule this early on. That's really tough because you're going to have to sit on that, and that might bite you in the ass when it comes to, like week 12, week 13.
And hey, what's a family trip to Ireland without fighting each other in the street,
Yeah, exactly. Man, I don't know what happened there, but that's tough. That's a tough.
That's football, baby. That's what I said. Your mood will be completely dependent on one game of 3.5 hours.
You may fight your family after this Bearcats game.
That's right. Even if we win.
Nebraska fans might fight their family. You never know. It's probably more likely that they will fight their family.
I'm not gonna, go against the low-hanging fruit because I've been told that Nebraska has Omaha, which apparently seems to be a city. But some of the responses that we've been getting, nothing would surprise me about some of these Nebraska people. But Justin, continue. Let's do the Big 12 head-to-head.
Let's do the Big 12 head-to-head. So
let's not get ourselves in trouble.
Yes. So, just as a quick rundown for those of you who are not aware, it is, in fact, week 1. So just a quick little note here for your teams that are in the top 25. This will be a nice thing, I think, to kind of see how we're setting the tone for the Big 12 in this season. You go down the list. First up in line, you have Arizona State at 11, then followed by K-State at 17, which will shift after this game. I would imagine, quite honestly, that K-State and Iowa State are just going to trade places. Kansas State at 17, Iowa State at 22, Texas Tech at 23, which gives you a pretty solid start. For the Big 12, at least have a few teams in there. Of course, it's nothing like the SEC or Big 10 where you get the benefit of the doubt. However, it's nice to at least have those in there. And then quickly following that, you have 3 Big 12 teams that are receiving votes right behind that. So your 26, 27, and 28 slots are BYU, Utah, and Baylor, which is really nice. And then, of course, Nebraska is also up there too, just for a mention. They are receiving votes. So there is a little bit of interest here, so it would be really nice to get that win. Bearcats, thank you. But again, a little bit of a tone set for the season. I think there's a lot of teams looking in here for the Big 12, and so you get some things to shake your way. We might get some more teams up here and just, again, hopefully get a little bit more credit as the Big 12 season rolls on. But it should be a good start for them. A lot of tough opponents here. Steve, what is one game from the Big 12 schedule this week that you are watching, you are looking forward to, that is not the Bearcats game?
So, yes, a good point, because I was silly and I picked a game that was not including a Big 12 team. I completely did not follow the assignment. So just picking one real quick, I'm going to go to a pretty standard one, but that Auburn-Baylor game on Friday night on Fox, that's going to be a good one, man. Baylor's breaking out the gold chrome helmets with the black jerseys and the black pants. But, there's a couple games in here, and there'll probably be more next week. But this game, and then Utah, UCLA, and TCU, North Carolina. But anyway, there's a couple games in here, and I think Justin is going to mention one coming up. But these games are going to say a lot about the perception of other leagues, because if all these other leagues come in and beat you, then your chances of getting more than one playoff spot are going to be lessened by how you perform. And so even though the SEC is going to go to 9 conference games, and these opportunities are going to be even more limited going forward, when you have an opportunity to go out and beat somebody, you got to go do it. And obviously that goes for your own team, but that goes for all the teams in your conference now. We have to be tribal now in college football. So
you have to be tribal.
So I'm going to go with Sawyer Robertson, Dave Aranda, and the Baylor Bears, because one, I'm not really a big fan of Hugh Freeze. I think they gave him a nice edit in The Blind Side. I don't really think he's a good
Oh yeah.
man. I just not really a big fan of the freeze. So, maybe he can get back on the golf course on Saturday with a big old fat L on Friday night. And I don't think the Baylor fans would like me talking about their team that way. They're a nice group of people over there. They don't like to talk too much trash, but I would love to see them do the thing on Friday night against Jackson Arnold, Hugh Freeze, and Auburn.
2.5 point spread on that game. Auburn are the favorites. At Baylor, Auburn are the favorites. So
Sick 'em Bears, baby.
Might have to take the Bears there. So I think we've got some interesting matchups here just for everybody's to keep on your radar. Of course, the one Steve kind of already mentioned it real quick. Monday night, Labor Day. It's going to be a nice evening for that. We have TCU, North Carolina, and those Horned Frogs get to welcome Mr. Belichick and his North Carolina Tar Heels, which still just sounds so weird coming out of the mouth. I get to welcome them to college football, and it's going to be interesting. Of course, it is in Chapel Hill. TCU is a favorite at a 3-point favorite there, but I think that one's going to be a really interesting one, and I'm going to lump one into this too because the mention of the SEC dealio with Auburn Baylor game there, I think is really interesting. There's actually 2 games here, which I think I would argue are almost more important than that game because SEC bias, you can't change anything. SEC conversation, you can't change anything. It's going to continue to be that way. 2 games to really pay attention here are that North Carolina game and one other one, the Georgia Tech Colorado game. Again, you got to be tribal here, folks. You got to cheer on Colorado in this game because Georgia Tech is the favorite here, is a strong favorite. I know Colorado is just not looking quite to be what they were last year. They lost a lot of really good production. But I think the biggest thing to pay attention here is you got 2 ACC teams in North Carolina and Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech, I think, could be in the conversation later in the season. They have a really good team. I'm a Haynes King believer. I think that team is set up really nicely to, kind of make some moves and get some good wins under their belt. Will they win the conference? No. But are they going to be shaking up some teams? For sure. Are they going to catch some people off guard? For sure. So I think if Colorado can find a way to pull that game off, and then again for TCU, if you can find a way to pull off a win on the road there in Chapel Hill, sets up a conversation really early about strength of schedule and, the difference between the Big 10 and the SEC get their, pats on the back. They get all their love and support from their daddies over at the committees, but the Big 12 and ACC, there's no room for, friendliness here. Like these teams, these conferences are going head to head for those slots at the end of the season. And of course the SEC and Big 10 is going to take a lot of those, but if it's a conversation of getting 2 ACC teams in and maybe 3 or 4 Big 12 teams in, or the vice versa, maybe not 4, but if it's 1 to 2 versus 2 to 3 on either side, these games count. These games count a lot. And again, they're really early in the season, but you got to get these wins under the belt. So if there's anybody to cheer for this week, I think it's really that Colorado and TCU, those matchups, because it's going to make a lot of difference, I think, at the end of the season when you get to say, okay, head to head, Big 12 beat the ACC when they got their chances. So just like the SEC and Big 12 with Auburn Baylor there, these are going to be important. I'd also like to mention, still, if you look at this entire schedule for the first week, this includes the Nebraska-Cincinnati game, which is, again, an Arrowhead in an NFL stadium, has a pretty high ticket there. Auburn and Baylor playing, 2 teams that, I would say wouldn't like each other. They're a pretty interesting ticket here, but still the most expensive tickets in college football for this first week. Not college football, sorry, in the Big 12 for this first week. It's those Colorado tickets, man. Tickets starting at $115 for that game. The Dion effect is still in place. It is crazy to me. It is just insane.
Do those people know that? Do those people know that Travis and Shadur won't be playing? Their numbers will be there, retired and hung up on the sideline, but those 2 will not be playing. So I hope all those ticket buyers know that.
Yeah, we gotta talk to those Colorado guys. I'm really curious to see how they feel about their team this year. I want to know. There's so
would love
much
it.
stuff outside of the roster too, and just whether or not Deion's even going to be like there most of the time. Which we all wish good health for Deion, but like it's going to be, I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to stay healthy the entire season to be actually on the sidelines and in practices, because I know he's been out a lot, which definitely does have an effect on the team. But forget the guy who's in second in command there at Colorado. Do you remember?
I don't. Sorry.
Um,
Not Pat Shermer, right?
Maybe it is Shermer. That sounds right. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Pat Shermer. I think he's like second in command. I think if like Deion's not there, then it's basically Pat Shermer's show. So, it'd be interesting to see how all this works out. But again, Big 12. Let's get some wins in this week. That'll be really fun. Anything else, Steve?
I'm gonna maybe try and a little sprinkle on the Big 12 versus other FBS teams this weekend. See
Okay.
a middle money line parlay of all those teams together. You can't really get odds on a FCS game, at least good odds, but maybe I'll come to our a couple of our chats, and maybe to you, the listeners, with a little Big 12 grouping. And see if we can start putting some money back into the Cincy Reigns fund.
Okay. We'll be on the lookout.
But you know what? I'm excited for Thursday night, man. I'm going to be on my couch seated 9:00. I wish I was there, but it'll be a lot of fun to just be able to have Bearcats football back on our TVs and in our lives again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just hoping I don't have to take Friday off for misery. Well, I'm either way, I think it's just, it's the first game of the year. Might just have to relax the next day, whether that be good or bad.
And if you guys want to see some comedy before, take something in lighthearted before you watch the Cincinnati game, UCF is going to be playing at 7:00 on ESPN Plus right before that, and tickets are as low as $9 for that one.
Oh yeah,
and they are going to start their the guy who came into camp as their 4th-string quarterback. So it might be fun to watch UCF this year.
Yeah, as a good hate watch, that'd be real fun.
Yeah, just take the edge off a little bit. A little something to take the edge off before you get in the chains for 3.5 hours and go to war.
Will UCF cover a 19-point spread? We'll find out.
Hey, Jacksonville State, baby. Let's see.
Don't
have Bridgewater anymore, but we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe they're good.
God, hey,
could you imagine? What if UCF lost week 1? What
if they go 0-12 again? I mean, it's been 10 years since they did it. Might as well do it again.
If they got Jacksonville State on the schedule, I'm sure they'll be at least 1-11. They also have North Carolina A&T after that, so I'm going to give them 2-10 at the bottom.
With a 10-game
I think Scott
loser
Frost
to
can
end
do
it.
that at least. Yeah, but he's definitely just getting a welcome to. I mean, Bill Belichick is going to turn on the frickin' Sweet Chin music in week 3, and that's gonna be tough. Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so.
Oh my God, that's Bill Belichick's music.
Oh my God. He just walks by and doesn't high five any kids that are holding out their hand.
Nope. Just hoodie on. Here's the real question: If we could find a line for this, will Bill Belichick wear a hoodie week 1, like a hoodie or like a cutoff like hoodie, like no sleeve hoodie? Will he wear one of those week 1?
Oh man,
especially in like Carolina blue. Man, that'd be crazy.
I'd be running a losing book if I was taking money on that.
Yeah, that's probably very true. We've talked enough. You guys enjoy. Have a great week. And again, hopefully the Bearcats can pull one out in Arrowhead. And once again, a Cincinnati team can go to a tough place and win a game in Kansas City. That'd be really nice. But all those things mentioned, have a great week. Enjoy some football. Take in week 1 for all its glory. It only happens once a year, week 1. And remember to check out the 1012 Network with all of the greatest podcasts covering the Big 12, including your boys here at Viva La Cats. That's all we've got. See ya. Viva
La Cats beat the Huskers, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. So I like the corn husk.